This is the first time, in fact, a Prime Minister of Canada.
We did this last time too.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so pleased that all of you could join us on this very historic day. When we gathered together here in January, we didn't know who Canada's next Prime Minister would be, but we had high hopes for Stephen Harper because he promised he would take action on issues of concern to everybody and the new Canadians. Now, of course, we had heard such promises before, but something was different. I believed him, you believed him, and we all believed him. So we were thrilled when Mr. Harper was given the opportunity to serve as our country's leader. He has been very busy since then, visiting Canada's troops in Afghanistan, solving the softwood lumber dispute with the United States, bringing in a budget that cuts our taxes, and strengthening our families with new child care program. He has been busy keeping his promises, and today he's back in Mississauga to keep the promise he made to us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our new Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning. Bon matin. Thank you, Raminder, in particular, all of you for that welcome. Raminder, for that introduction. We miss you in Ottawa, Raminder, but we hope to see you there someday. I want you to also join in giving a warm welcome to my colleague from the House of Commons, the Immigration Minister, Monty Soberg, who is also with us here today. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces here in Toronto today. We first met together on January 4th. It was a frosty winter day. We were right here in Mississauga, in this very hotel, in this very same room. That's when I made several commitments to you. Commitments I promised to fulfill if elected Prime Minister. I told you a new Conservative government would cut the right of landing fee in half. Create a federal agency to help new Canadians get recognition of their skills and credentials. Provide more funding for immigration settlement. Launch a full judicial inquiry into the 1985 Air India bombing and offer a formal apology for the Chinese head tax. Friends, just over 4 months have passed since I made those commitments to you. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir de vous confirmer que les frais relatifs aux droits de résidence permanente ont été coupés. Des fonds pourraient être réservés pour la création d'une nouvelle agence de reconnaissance des titres de compétences étrangers. Le budget prévoit plus de 300 millions de dollars pour le financement supplémentaire de l'établissement des immigrants. Et l'enquête sur Air India a été mise en place et notre nouveau gouvernement a annoncé dans le discours du trône que nous allons présenter des excuses à l'égard de la taxe d'entrée imposée aux immigrants chinois. Today, I am pleased to report the right of landing fee for immigrants has been cut in half. Funds have been set aside in the budget for the creation of a new credentials recognition agency in this country. Over $300 million in additional immigrant settlement resources are also included in our budget. The Air India inquiry. Under Justice Major, the Air India inquiry has finally been established. And our government announced its clear intention in the speech from the throne to offer a formal apology to Chinese Canadians for the imposition of the head tax. Friends, in opposition, we said what we would do. In power, we are doing it. We've moved forward quickly on these promises because they're important to you, and they're important to all new Canadians. In fact, they are important to all citizens of this great country. Everybody wins when newcomers bring their skills and values to this country. Their skills in technology, trades, medicine, engineering, or the humanities. Their values of hard work, respect for law and order, and a commitment to family and to children. C'est pour cela que notre budget de la semaine passée annonçait la coupure des frais relatifs aux droits de résidence permanent de 50%. That's why last week's budget called for the 50% reduction in the right of permanent residence fee. This so-called user fee is really just a tax by another name. My friends, conservative governments believe in lower and fairer taxes. That's why we're cutting the residence fee from $975 to $490 immediately, just as we said we would do. Immigrants and their families will get to keep more of their own money in their own pockets when they're starting a new life in Canada. But that's just the start. We told you in January that our government must do more to attract skilled workers to this country and to make sure those skills are used. Because individuals from every cultural group have made and can make major contributions to our economy and our society. Because it is deeply unfortunate and grossly unfair when experience, education, and credentials are overlooked. And because Canada is competing with the rest of the world to attract the best and the brightest to our shores. That's why our new government set aside funding in its first budget to create a Canadian agency for the assessment and recognition of foreign credentials. We understand how hard it is to make a new life in a new land. Immigrants often face a strange web of bureaucracy and an unfair jungle of red tape. Au Canada, il y a 13 juridictions différentes, 15 professions réglementées et de plus de 400 agences de réglementation. In Canada, there are 13 different jurisdictions, 15 regulated professions, and more than 400 regulatory bodies. So it's clear that new immigrants need a welcoming hand to help them stick handle through this maze. The agency will do just that by working with our partners, the provinces, professional and licensing bodies, employers, and immigrants to make sure newcomers' skills, training, and credential are recognized, respected, and rewarded. The goal for all of us will be to get those who are trained and ready to work in their fields of expertise into the workforce more quickly. Because we want the world's best in Canada, and they want to come here. That's why, for example, we've just extended work permits to foreign students whose skills are needed off campus. But our budget does more. It also commits $307 million more for increased immigration settlement funding. This is new money that will go to our partners in the immigration system to help newcomers become full members in the Canadian family, help with ESL or FSL language training, help with housing, education, and employment. It's the least we can do for people who have responded to our call and who have chosen Canada. Now, Friends, Canada's new government recognizes that we are all privileged to live in a country uniquely blessed. we also recognize that we have a duty to share these blessings with others. One of the most generous ways we do this is by welcoming orphan children from overseas into our country, which is exactly what Canadians are doing. Canadians like Agnes Lee, Dr. Lee of McMaster University, who is with us today, along with her adopted daughter, Kate. Aggie came to Canada from Hong Kong when she was 10 years old. Katie came to Canada from China when she was just 10 months old. Her Chinese name translates as Lucky Sunshine, and I think I know why. As an infant, she was found abandoned outside a Chinese village. There was no identification, only a note with her birth date. A few months later, she was adopted by Aggie and her husband, Rob Marsh, and brought back to Canada. Lucky Sunshine indeed. She's not used to quite this much attention. But it took 14 months for Katie to become a Canadian citizen. During that time, the family had to travel to the United States because Katie wasn't a Canadian citizen. She actually had to be fingerprinted at the U.S. border. I'm very happy to report that Katie's a Canadian now. And as you can tell just by looking at her, Canada is lucky too. But it shouldn't have taken so long for her to obtain citizenship. That's why our government has committed to streamlining the foreign adoption process. Lundi prochain, nous allons présenter à la Chambre des communes un projet de loi qui simplifiera l'acquisition de la citoyenneté canadienne pour les enfants nés à l'étranger et adoptés par des Canadiens. Next Monday, we will introduce legislation in Parliament that will make it easier for parents who adopt children overseas to obtain Canadian citizenship for these children. Those parents, like Aggie and Rob, go to great effort and expense to bring those children into their families. They open their hearts, they provide in their homes, and they provide opportunities to children who often come from impoverished or war-ravaged countries where the value of human life has been forgotten. I'm therefore pleased to announce that our government will help strengthen those adoptive families by making them all full-fledged members of our Canadian family as quickly as possible. Parents have asked us to help them make foreign adopted kids Canadian, and that's just what we're going to do. Because we are keeping our promises to new Canadians, just as we are keeping our promises to all Canadians. We're keeping our promise to cut taxes. We're keeping our promise to clean up government. We're keeping our promise to provide choice in childcare. Nous tenons parole d'adresser le déséquilibre fiscal et d'établir des garanties pour les délais d'attente sur les services essentiels de santé. We're keeping our promise to crack down on criminals who threaten the peaceful way of life that attracts people to Canada from around the world. Because Canadians were fed up with the way their country was going. They wanted change, and that's what we're delivering. For new Canadians, for all Canadians, we're moving forward every day towards a new and better Canada. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. God bless Canada.
Good morning. We'll start with some questions of the reporters that registered on the list. So first question is from Alan Woods, Can West.
Prime Minister, on the gun registry, there have been reports over the past couple of days about problems that will be detailed in the upcoming Auditor General's report, and there's also been confirmation from the Public Works Minister that there's been a stop work order issued on the main computer contract. I wonder what sort of concerns you have about the gun registry, and will you use the Auditor General's report and the expected findings as a reason to start?
Well, I haven't yet actually seen the Auditor General's report. I've, of course, heard some of the rumors and reports, and I don't think it's news to you or to anyone else that we've had concerns about the gun registry for some time, and we've had previous Auditor General's reports documenting some of the problems in the management of the gun registry. So all I will say is the government is waiting to get confirmation of some of this information. And obviously, we've made some commitments to make some changes in the area of the gun registry, and we will, in due course, proceed with those.
Yannick Dumont, Radio-Canada.
Monsieur, un peu encore dans le fond. Kyoto, après 2012, sans cible de réduction précise, comment ça va fonctionner? Comment ça peut marcher et être efficace?
Je pense que, comme vous savez, nous avons dit au moment de l'adoption du protocole de Kyoto que nous avions des concerns de cette efficacité. La réalité est que pendant la période du gouvernement précédent, malgré l'adoption des cibles, et malgré le fait que le gouvernement a dépensé des milliards de dollars, nous n'avons pas créé un plan, le gouvernement précédent n'a pas créé un plan pour atteindre ces objectifs. Et maintenant, nous sommes 35% sur les objectifs déclarés pour le Canada. Évidemment, comme nous avons dit, le Canada n'est pas dans une position d'atteindre ces cibles, mais le problème, le changement climatique, reste un problème important et nous sommes déterminés de faire du progrès. Par exemple, dans le budget que nous venons d'annoncer, nous avons par exemple des programmes pour encourager des carburants renouvelables. Nous avons aussi des investissements majeurs dans le transport en commun et des bénéfices pour ceux et celles qui emploient, qui utilisent le transport en commun. Alors, nous avons commencé, mais évidemment, nous avons beaucoup de travail à faire.
Mike Drolet, Global TV.
My question is about Afghanistan. Yesterday, Canadian soldiers arrested 10 suspected Talibans. They had sums of money and they had explosives. Those prisoners were then handed over to the Afghan intelligence service. What assurances do you have as Prime Minister, and do the Canadian people have, that Canadian soldiers aren't arresting these people in Afghanistan, then just handing them over to their deaths?
Well, they're handing them over in accord with the treaty that we've signed with the government of Afghanistan to respect all of Canada's obligations under the Geneva Convention. We expect the Afghan government to live up to those obligations and have every reason to believe that they will. But quite frankly, let me say this. When our forces on the ground taking on this terrible ex-regime, this terrible organization, when they capture people and when they make progress in their fight against the Taliban, I think this is something that all Canadians should celebrate.
Matteo Lorenzi, Omni.
After all the protests led by community groups and unions, does your government still consider undocumented workers a low priority?
That would not be my description. We're certainly aware of the undocumented worker problem. The Minister and I discussed it yet again on our flight down to Toronto today. Obviously, we want to make sure that our immigration program functions in a way that it addresses the labor needs of the Canadian economy. And so we're working on how we can better improve that. But, you know, we encourage all immigrants to work within the rules and work within the system. And we have literally every year hundreds of thousands of people who come to Canada by working patiently and legally through all the channels we create to encourage immigration. And we want to continue to send that message, that it's important that we respect the rules, and it's important that we reward those immigrants who do respect our rules and our laws.
Leanne Pereira, CTV.
Hi. What are your plans, if any, in regards to the backlog of sponsored spouses who are waiting to be processed?
All I can tell you is that you're probably best, if you have a chance, to put this to the Minister of Immigration. We obviously have enormous backlogs in the immigration system. We took over with 750,000 backlogged applications of one kind or another. This is a major problem. It's not going to be fixed overnight, but I know the Minister and his officials are working at ways of addressing these problems.
Maggie Lee Ming Pao.
Well, no final decision has been taken on that. The Minister of Canadian Heritage has been consulting with various representatives of the Chinese Canadian community. We'll make a decision on that sometime in the very near future. We've been very clear we're going to issue an apology for the head tax, and we're going to provide appropriate redress. That may involve compensation to those who are directly affected. It's unlikely to involve compensation to those who are not.
Surya Bhattacharya, Toronto Star.
Mr. Prime Minister, new Canadians will benefit from the setup of this agency, but what about immigrants in the country who are currently here, who work in jobs where their skills are not recognized? Will they have access to this agency?
Well, the agency is going to do its best. I mean, this is a big, once again, this is a big job. The agency, we believe, is important to get on with tackling this job in earnest, but it's not going to be fixed overnight. As I indicated in my speech, we're dealing with a complex array of regulatory bodies and professional accreditation. That issue has to be worked out in consultation with the provinces for those who are already here. One thing I hope the agency will be able to do in time will, for example, be able to give employers better information on the value of foreign credentials. We often talk about the regulated professions, but the fact of the matter is the credentials problem is an issue, not just in the regulated professions, but in all manner of education and qualifications. And it's often the case, at least our anecdotal experience would suggest, it's often the case that employers, in the absence of knowledge about what the true value of foreign credentials are, tend to discount them. So we want to make sure that the true value of foreign credentials is understood. We develop an inventory and provide information across the labor market. That's one of the objectives. But as I say, these are things that will take considerable work, won't be fixed overnight.
Jennifer Graham, Canadian Press.
Where a reporter with Canadian Forces took some pictures, and I understand those pictures were suppressed by the forces. Was it appropriate for the Canadian military to take such action and suppress these photos?
I don't know. I don't know all the details, but I can say that my own view is that military operations is a matter of national security. I think it's largely at the discretion of Department of National Defense what information they do or do not release on military operations.
And this will be the last question to Adam Vaughan, City TV. It's right there, Prime Minister.
Oh, I can't believe he's at the back.
Yeah, that won't be for long. Mr. Harper, one of the issues that is in front of this province involves a resource which is as precious to Ontario as oil is to Alberta. That's immigrants.
Right.
We need them as badly as Alberta needs its oil to build our economy. What can you tell us about the number that your government will let into this country, and how many more will you let in the Liberal government?
Well, we haven't set targets to this point. As you know, in the past decade plus, I'm tempted to say 13 years. I'm kind of a stuck record on that, 13 years. Governments set targets, and targets were not met. So just having a number out there I don't think matters. We need a smoother functioning system that will more quickly process appropriate applications and get people to this country. I can tell you this, Adam, in terms of commitment to Ontario, we recognize Ontario is obviously the largest immigrant receiving province. That's why the bulk of the new immigration settlement funding that we announced in the budget will go to the province of Ontario, and why we expect the bulk of the activities in terms of our credential and recognition agency to be focused in the province of Ontario.
Will more immigrants come into this country under your new efficient guidelines?
Well, I think we need more. You know, we've got, as I say, enormous problems to deal with in terms of administration and making sure we get appropriate applications processed quickly. But I have not put a number on it to date.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Sir. Be careful. You're all over her.
Sure can.
Right here. So I got it. Okay. Great. All right.
Sir, you have to be careful. This number here, and you come back. Just move this way now. Thank you.
You have a picture of me also, you know, what's our man who came from Montreal?
Case Hamidi.
She's our photographer.
Sorry. No, anytime. Okay, which one's your camera? Do you have a camera? That's okay. Right here?
Right here. Prime Minister, official photographer.
Prime Minister, right there?
We're getting
You won't have a good picture?
Thank you.
which press? Thank you very much.
John.
Have you got a camera?
So we'll just give you the email address, okay? Thank you.
Get you first.
Yeah.
You got a camera back here?
Yes, we'll have to go over there. Oh, one quick picture. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Steph. Sorry about that. Sorry.
You got a camera here? Okay, great.
Okay, we'll do it. That's
We're going to do it right here.
Okay, there he is. He's... Right this way, sir. Thank you very much.
1, 2. Sir, if you email us.
Get a quick picture.
I got it.
Thank you.
Well, he's got no cards. He tells me what to do. This is the way it works. He's the boss. This guy's the big boss.
You are a boss.
I want to play.
We believe you.
On the line up. I'm not the guy to line up. Unfortunately. Line up. Be the guy to talk to.
Let's get a nice little picture over here.
Tell him.
You got a camera?
Right here.
Let's do this. It's okay. I want to get quick one. You got it? Yeah, try it again. I got it.
I think if he doesn't look here, I wouldn't take the picture.
Pode aprender assim, então, depois ele vira. One more.
Let's get one more. Thank you. Right here, right here.
Sorry, we gotta get a order here. We'll do that first, then we'll do
As always, thank you again, sir. Thank you. But I would
Yeah. And I should have to do that again.